Hello and welcome to this packed CXP Group webinar where we'll be discussing the business applications trends and predictions for 2018. I'm Sarah Wilson and I'll be moderating today's webinar. I'm joined by Frank Nyman, Nicholas Burkeye and Stefan Kaiser, who will be your hosts for today. If you have any questions during the webinar, please use the chat function and we'll spend some time at the end of the webinar answering as many of your questions as possible. So without further ado, I'll pass you to Nicholas to start the webinar.
Okay, hello everybody and welcome to this webinar. So I'm Nico Burkeye, heading up the enterprise application and related services practices. What we're going to present to you during this webinar are actually the enterprise application trends from the end user side, and then also afterwards it will be Frank Nyman who will present you actually the services perspective view on the enterprise applications, and towards the end it will be Stefan who will briefly present you how we can help you on your journey. And since you're all muted, we will have nevertheless a Q&A session at the end of this webinar, so you can drop your questions just using this online chatting tool. So before I present the trends from the end user, just a few words about the CXP Group. So we are the leading European IT analyst house at Europe with 150 employees, and we do have 90 analysts and consultants, mostly based in France, Germany and UK, who really focus on the local markets, on the local players, and understanding local cultures. Of course, we also have the global view on the trends, but in some cases, actually, we see some huge differences between the local markets. So we also present you some of those differences during this call. Within the CXP, we are organized into 5 different research practices. So quite a classical approach. So we have one team which is really focusing and very well known on the analytics and data management, on cloud infrastructure and digital customer experience and IoT. That's also the practice which is really looking at the latest technologies such as artificial intelligence. And then we have, of course, the enterprise application and related services practice, to whom Frank and myself belong to, and of course, finally, the information security. So we have a broad scope where we can actually provide expertise. Stefan Kaiser at the end will actually present all the different services that we provide to our clients and vendors. To make it more humanly, just a brief showcase of our people. So we are within the ES practice more than 20 analysts, whereas half of them are focusing on end user side. So we're providing some research publications on best practices on how to best select an ERP solutions or how to define a governance process on ECM. We do a lot of benchmarks, so software benchmarking, applying over hundreds of criterions to really positioning each of the software solutions, and do a lot of consulting and for our clients, such as typically a software selection process. On the other side, the other half of our people, they are more on the vendor side and the services side, providing the data market, such as for the cities, doing the competitive landscape with their radar and scores, and conducting the different MCS, and doing also, of course, consulting. So that's just a few words about the CXP. What I'm going to present to you now is the some feedback from our consulting experience, mixed together with the different multi-client surveys that we have done this year. So first of all, let's talk about the digital transformation. So the digital transformation is not really new. So it's not really surprising that in terms of maturity, most companies, they already started the digital transformation about more than 1 year ago. So we have at least about 70% of all companies that started the digital transformation at France, Germany, and Switzerland. However, there nevertheless about 20% in all those markets which just recently started about 1 year ago. And we do have let's say a peak at Switzerland for companies that not even started the digital transformation. So we have about 10% at Switzerland as compared to France, which is really kind of the market which is the most advanced in terms of digital transformation, with 3% and 6% at Germany. Just a few notes on those 70%. So for companies that already engaged the digital transformation about 1 year ago, there is about 1/3 of this 70% which have started the digital transformation about more than 2 years ago. So if we do now a drill down on the French market, we will see that actually Switzerland is not only the one market segment which is lagging behind. There are also, if you're looking at the different sizes of companies, we have, for example, the mid-market, so companies between 500 to 1,000 employees, which are also lagging behind. The top performers are the multinational clients, organizations with more than 10,000 employees. Well, this could also be some huge national companies where we have the highest percentage of companies that already engaged more than 2 years ago. And the mid-market is the one which is really kind of lagging behind at France in terms of maturity. So we have the highest percentage, which just recently started the digital transformation. So let's drill a little bit down in the digital transformation. So first of all, within the digital transformation, all processes across the organizations are impacted. And that's very important to understand. And also within the next 2 years, all processes will fully be digitally transformed. One of the key objectives, and we have conducted different surveys throughout the year, the operational effectiveness is really the number one objective for all companies, pretty much ahead of the other objectives such as risk management, cost reduction, regulatory compliance, etc. So it's really focusing in getting, the internal operations much better. So in these organizations, expect actually an improvement of about 25 to 50% of internal operations. So it's really focusing to making the best out of what companies have. Within all the processes impacted on digital transformation, there is one process which really stands out. And this is a process which is the most impacted. It's the customer process. It will be also the process which will receive the most investments, the most focus at companies over the next 2 years. All other processes, they will be kind of slow down, and afterwards companies going to work on them. About, roughly 29% of the organizations expect actually an improvement in their customer relationship, also by 25 to 50%. And since, operational ineffectiveness comes along with transversal process, it means that actually the transformal processes, there are processes that span different line of businesses, and you need to connect the different applications of this line of businesses to get actually a complete, seamless transversal process. And this requires integration. So it's also not really surprising that for more than 50% of the organization, integration is the key challenge right now during the digital transformation. There is also some differences in the local markets. So for example, who has taken the lead on the digital transformation? So we see Germany and France, we have a strong dominance of the IT department who has taken the lead, whereas at Switzerland, we do have much more the business executives or the head of line of businesses who are in charge of the digital transformation. So at Germany, we have 71, and at France, 65% of the projects taken up by IT department, whereas at Switzerland, we only have about 42% of the digital transformation taken up by the IT department. And let's look now at the different key trends on the enterprise application. So right now, the artificial intelligence is quite a strong buzzword. It's in all the journals. It's everyone is promoting this new technology. It's already somehow implemented, start getting implemented mostly in CRM solutions, doing chatbots, or doing up and cross-selling on e-shop pages. There are also some new applications within the enterprise content management, such as, for example, to classify documents or within BPM to have more intelligent process. So IA is definitely something that will help to automate kind of the low value processes and to shift actually the humans on the more on the high value added tasks. So there will be a lot of new features added into these enterprise applications. Another trend, which is kind of strongly focusing on the CRM solution, it's about IoT, which helps to increase the customer insight, satisfaction, relationships, and of course provide new services. This is something really strong in the CRM solutions. We do have other use cases such as predictive maintenance, planning intervention, or actually detecting problems. So the field of the IT is pretty large when it's combined afterwards with enterprise application. And then, of course, when since company are focusing now on the operational effectiveness, they want to understand now, what is going on, how the processes are going. Are we handling customer demands or questions on time? Do we provide the good information, etc.? So right up to now, the software vendors, the capability of the analytics part, the dashboards, sometimes it was very limited or old-fashioned. So a lot of software vendors, they are improving these sections, or actually teaming up with a third-party tool to provide much more insights about how the different data or content flows through the different systems to do actually an iterative approach to improve the internal operations. We have also cloud deployments. Cloud deployments really focusing on not only to get the faster time to market, but also to facilitate external access and of course collaboration. I mean, this again affects all type of enterprise application. However, cloud adoption is not really equal in all the markets, so we will have a special focus on the next slide on that. Another thing which companies are looking forward, it's the usage of kind of vertical applications. So really vertical in sense of, for a line of business or for an industry, but also pre-packaged modules. So modules that you just can deploy for an ERP or an ECM. So for example, in ECM, we're talking about managing invoices, managing contracts, etc. So there are kind of pre-packaged modules which allows to have a faster time of market. And of course, at the end, the GRP compliance. I hope that most companies are aware of that. However, we haven't seen yet a lot of companies really starting to attack this new data protection law that will come in operation next year. And also taking into account that such a project normally takes about 9 months to conduct. I think a lot of companies will be quite in a rush in the next coming months to get compliant with that. Just coming back to the cloud. Cloud is pretty in right now. A lot of companies are using cloud. However, the cloud adoption is not really equal across the different markets. So for example, at France, if you look 3 years down the line, we were going to have about 35% of companies that will use the cloud for the enterprise application by about 75 to 100%, whereas at Switzerland and Germany, we're talking about roughly around 20%. Even within the segment of 50 to 75%, we have France, which is largely ahead of the 2 other markets. And they are, Germany and Switzerland are mostly using, anything between 0 and 50% around for 50% of their application. So I also had, for example, last week a chat with one of our French software vendor. They have the research center and headquarters at Germany. And he is kind of in a bad situation because the German colleagues, so they who are driving kind of the research of the product, they say, well, cloud for us is not important because at Germany, it's not that a hot topic as compared to France. However, France, if you would like to sell a software, I mean, it needs to have a solid and high performance cloud offering. Another difference is also regarding the architecture choice. If you set up an architecture, there are a couple of approaches you can use. You can use a best-of-breed approach, which means that they're going to pick always the best tool or software available to handle potentially just a limited functional scope, versus a larger unified application which has a very large functional scope. So in the best-of-breed approach, of course, you need to do a lot of integration to get really a seamless process around above those applications. So at front, there is still a preference for best of breed. So really picking up the right tools, the latest tools, offering the latest functionality, the latest trends, and do afterwards the integration. Whereas at Germany, and at Switzerland, we have much more an approach of getting a unified application in place, which has a large functional scope and requires much less integration. And this is kind of probably also limited to the cloud adoption rate, because if you go on the cloud, you can easily put the new tools available on the cloud. But afterwards, you need to do integration. So we expect that this actually will go down in favor of unified applications. So that was my part regarding the end user organizations. I'm gonna hand over now to Frank, who will present you the services side.
Hello, everybody, also from my side. I will talk now about enterprise application related services and the trends here. I hope you can hear me well. I would like to start with what we call the new big picture of business innovation, digital business innovation. You have heard from all the different trends that are out there, the different digital aspects, as we say. There's, for instance, customer experience management. There is the Internet of Things, and as we call it, the digital workspace. And all these things are about new services that you need in terms of providing, in case of customer experience, omni-channel commerce, more data-driven applications than only transactional applications. On the side of the Internet of Things, we talk about new devices with local intelligence and new IoT platforms, also data-driven applications. On the side of the digital workspace, which is the new work environment for employees, we talk about collaboration and communication that is embedded into the workspace. So are applications, workflows, documents, and so forth. We have all these aspects of digitization that drive the need for services. So that's consulting and systems integration. However, these digital trends cannot live without supporting technologies. Such as analytics. And here we talk about not just reporting, we talk about more advanced analytics that complement existing analytics environments. We talk about big data analytics, predictive, and also, as Nico already mentioned, artificial intelligence. Another important supporting technology is the cloud. The cloud by means of offering solutions as a service, so software as a service. Also the migration of existing on-premise workloads into private or public clouds. And very important, the development of cloud-based applications on the basis of platform as a service. Although we talk about modern things and we talk a lot about front end, IoT and stuff like that, we still need backend processes. This is why we think that ERP is still relevant. However, it's about ERP modernization or the implementation of new ERP solutions, modern ERP solutions. It's innovations in terms of supply chain, procurement, and so forth. So backend processes and the new digital aspects cannot live without each other. They are interrelated very much. And very importantly, it's security, which is not just the protection of content, of data. It's also the application security. And as applications are exposed to the internet and to mobile device access, it's a much higher level of security, of protection that is needed. It's the infrastructure security, which is about the security of the connection between on-premise, private cloud environments and public cloud environments. And also, as Nico already mentioned, compliance and risk-related topics, which are also part of security. So this is the new big picture. It's existing technologies and therefore existing services and a lot of new services. So it's the combination of these new digital aspects and the supporting technologies which require from IT service providers a much broader portfolio, as well as a way of delivering services and consult and advise customers. We come to that later. Another trend is the transformation of the application vendors, and I've picked the 4 application platforms that we look into very much. That is SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, and the Microsoft application side. So we have a strong focus here on the Dynamics applications. If we look at SAP, they continue to enhance the portfolio with platform-related assets, such as lately the SAP Leonardo launch, which is a platform for data-driven applications, IoT-related applications, as well as the SAP Data Hub, which is a hub for integrating various types of data and provide it as a platform. And also the innovation around the core application, the S/4HANA, which has been launched as a cloud edition as well, and SAP is continue to develop it. Look at Oracle. They just had their open world in California. They now offer a complete cloud platform, a full stack from IaaS up to software as a service. They are pushing a lot the ERP and HCM cloud offerings they have with the help of the NetSuite acquisition last year. Also, the integration of topics such as artificial intelligence into their existing portfolio of analytics and applications is a thing they are looking after. If you look at Salesforce, they continue to expand the platform capabilities. Think of IoT as well as the Einstein technology. And they have entered the commerce market with the acquisition of Demandware, and they're pushing this as the commerce cloud offering. Microsoft now is much more than a provider of different assets. It's more and more a platform, and they learn more and more to better combine the different assets they have. Azure has become an open platform, not just for Microsoft, but also for third-party technology. It has become a platform to deploy cloud services as well as to develop cloud services. And as we look at Microsoft's portfolio expanding, we have combinations. This is called Microsoft 365, combinations of the Office portfolio, Windows 10 operating system, the mobile platform, and the security. So much more a combination of assets we haven't seen in the past from this vendor. And there are various other examples from other vendors that also transform due to the advent of digital business innovation. The third trend is, of course, cloud. What do we mean by that, and why this is important for service providers? So we used to think of traditional enterprise applications, and they still exist, of course. However, we have a shift towards cloud-based applications, and many of these vendors develop cloud first. The goal is here to have not a bunch of different releases, but just one code base every customer is using. You only develop on one code base. You get continuous updates versus a release cycle of years. More and more, we see these cloud-based applications of a best of breed of different portfolio items. Look at SAP and Oracle, but also these applications become more open to also add best of breed solutions from third parties. And also the trend of embedded analytics that Nico was referring to, we see very much in these cloud-based applications as well. It's one of the key assets they can provide. And on the technology side, microservices and API management is becoming a very important topic also for the integration of external services, for the extension of these cloud-based applications. And also this has very much to do with how IT service providers develop and extend these applications. If we talk about cloud, of course, there's not just one cloud. We see private and public cloud deployments, and we see companies and also vendors offering various options for these cloud deployments, and this will continue, of course. If we talk about cloudification and the usage of cloud, of course, we have differences regarding the various regions and countries, and I want to highlight here a few countries. So what we see, what you see here is the cloud maturity measured by the share of the overall cloud services, the share of the cloud services in the total spendings, IT spendings in these countries. There's no wonder that the United States are in the lead. So the share is here the highest. UK is also very much advanced. And if you look at Germany, it's about 10%, and it's even less in Austria. That said, we do see a lot of activity in the German market. So the discussion about the usage of cloud-based software and related services is becoming much more vibrant right now. This is also because the large application providers I talked about earlier have started to offer such things, and they offer local data centers. You know, this is a very hot discussed topic among German companies. So we see a growth here, which means for you as a service provider that cloud is also a present topic in Germany and in other countries. The fourth trend I want to talk about is experience. And it's not just the user experience, which is important as well, but when we think about digital, it's also about the experience of the customers, the users on the customer side, if you will, or the consumers that, for example, use a mobile app, that use an e-commerce website. And of course, not to forget, it's the employees. It's within the companies, the employees want easy to use technology. And there's three aspects, basically three aspects. It's technology. So if we talk about interfaces, we more and more think about device agnostic user interfaces. It's the automation and the workflows that help you better make use of the functions and features being offered, and also raise the productivity of the users, customers, and employees. Artificial intelligence will play an important role in the automation, but also in providing things like advice, providing analytics, predictions for a user. And artificial intelligence and embedded analytics therefore relate very much to each other. There are business well as why experience is important. So of course, you can improve the productivity of your users, your employees, but also it's about the encouragement of collaboration. So people are more are better able to collaborate, and if it's easier, they do it. It's also about people engagement, how you engage people be customers, users, or employees. And at the end, it's also part of the talent management of a company. So if you want to hire new, young people, you need to have a nice user environment, nice digital workspace. So this is why we think talent management also relate to this. In this is also topics such as qualification, training, and so forth. For you as a service provider, that means that it's not just about providing technology. This is still a valid topic. However, it's very much about designing user interfaces, designing an experience in an agile fashion. Think about consumerization. This is why I put the logos of these consumer brands down there. These companies have shown what experience could look like. It's also about the interdisciplinary collaboration between line of business and the IT, which also means that you as a service provider need to be able to talk to both, and it's all about simplification. As we talked about the market, and I also mentioned the cloud, let's look at the overall market, the worldwide market, and its development regarding software products and services. So on the left side, you see a comparison of the market volume of enterprise application software products. So that's the traditional software business, which is hardly growing. And on the other side, you see all that relates to software as a service, so applications offered as a service. And there the growth is very high and the volume will be very high in the future. On the services side, which is on the right, this is consulting and systems integration. We still have lots of services, of course, on the application related, so the traditional application related services. That said, these customers that use these applications will as well use SaaS applications to complement these environments. Therefore, you still need the traditional services, but in addition, you need to be able to provide services for the SaaS environments, for SaaS applications, and to integrate them. So integration, again, like Nico already said, is a very important topic here. Integration of data, of systems, and of processes. What does that all mean for you as a systems integrator? We have a shift from a very much back-end focused and back-end focused environment, portfolio, and services very much about a technical implementation towards a portfolio that's much broader. So we still need and have the backend, and you need to have the backend competencies. At the same time, it's about LOB solutions for say, sales, marketing. Lots of data-driven apps, and many of these apps will be developed custom for the individual customer. We will have to deal with IoT devices and IoT platforms, with analytics and with cloud. Therefore, the services portfolio is getting bigger, much broader. So it's about advisory and deployment services on the business and technology side. And it's not just implementing one application platform, it's the orchestration of different applications, maybe even from different vendors, the custom development of apps, of data-driven apps for the individual customer, as well as the own IP of the service provider. So this is what we see as an evolution. And also important here to note, there will be a collaboration with this service provider, not just with IT managers, CIOs, but also with C-level executives and with the various LOBs. So you need to be able to talk to both sides to address the needs of both sides. However, it's not just about delivering services, it's more like advising them, design together with these people a solution, and be a partner of this till you go live and I think that in the future we will see much more continuous advisory engagement. So you don't stop the project once it has gone live. It's a continuous improvement, and this is how we see the evolution of IT services in the light of digital transformation. I'll hand over to Stefan Kaiser.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Thank you, Nico. So also a warm welcome from my side. I'm Stefan. I'm sitting in our Munich office, but acting in the global role because I'm currently running our worldwide business with you as global vendors. So first of all, a big thank you that so many from you are attending today and spending the time with us. Thanks for this. And I'd like to guide you in the next 10 to 15 minutes through, let's say, our thoughts, where we see our value and where we see how we can help you on your journey in terms of growing the market and also your own transformation as a vendor in this fast changing environment. So to maybe be a bit more concrete in terms of how we see the value for you guys as a vendor, we have a structure that hopefully is as simple as possible in the three pillars that you can see here, where we see a value contribution. So on the left side, and first of all, it's, let's say, everything that is related to grow own market understanding as a foundation for strategy deployments or the future development of your company based on a subscription model to a research platform. I will give you a bit more of details in a minute. Second, in the middle, is more or less everything around bespoke services in terms of our go-to-market advisory capabilities. So I will guide you briefly through our consulting framework, which is called the 7 levers to growth, where we have, I would say, identified the most important, major important sweet spots that are your individual levers to grow your company and to make it, let's say, prepared for the future. And thirdly, a quick overview about everything that is related to our influencer business, which means where we can work with you as a vehicle to spread the word about an innovation, a new technology, about the research that we conduct next year in a commissioned way, and also to provide you with the agenda that we have prepared in the EAS and BAS space for next year. So first of all, the first pillar, it's the so-called SITSI platform, where we provide hundreds of documents to give you insights about the different dynamics in the markets we were talking about in terms of growth of the market, the forecast, in terms of volume growth, everything that is related in terms of the qualitative comments of our analyst community, as we did it with Frank and Nico in the last 30 minutes, with a lot of written, opinion-driven content around EAS and BAS, and also in terms of benchmarking tools and competitive information. What are your peers in the market currently doing? So how are other vendors positioned from the software and IT services space, and how do we see and judge their strategy, and what is our opinion on them? And today the focus is on the business application software and services side, but you can see on the right side that this is embedded into a broader, let's say, expertise that already Nico was outlining at the beginning of the session today. And to go a bit more into the details of the architecture of this research platform, as Frank already mentioned, we are pretty much focusing on how we say the 4 big business application platforms, which is again SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, and Salesforce. Oracle and Microsoft pretty much focused on the business application side of their world, and we provide, as I said, a lot of data points for, let's say, preparing your own strategy and your growth strategy execution. We provide a lot of information about the vendors and the qualitative and opinion-driven insights in that field. And by the way, because Nico was pretty much focusing on the 3 countries in his latest projects, Frank was bringing that into a broader context in terms of geographical scope. The program we provide is covering 30+ countries. So it's a really, really profound source also to, let's say, compare your different markets that you are acting in, and with the focus from a segmentation standpoint on the consulting and system integration market, because we see ourselves as the bridge from the big platforms and our understanding of the software vendors into the opportunity that lies in there for you guys as CNSI providers or IT services providers, and to make your assumptions out of that. So what is the plan for 18? You can see based on the 4 platforms, but also some platform independent topics that we have in our schedule. I think it's an interesting potpourri of planned content that we want to publish for next year. So I will not go into the details here, but it gives you a little flavor of our 2018 architecture and how we want to publish content, also on the quantitative and on the qualitative side of our business. So pretty much confirming the 4 platforms, but also some platform independent topics, as I said, on HCM, which is a big transformational topic, all the digital contexts that are impacting business applications and enterprise application landscapes. So many things that we were also hearing about from Frank and Nico in their speech. Also another little excerpt of the planning where we see some rich content coming in terms of artificial intelligence and what is the impact on customer experience, data management platforms for customer experience, and so on and so forth. And beside that, let's say, platform approach, we still stand for a lot of bespoke service, as I said, and we call it the 7 levers to growth. So this is a heavy slide, and I think you don't need to go to all the text here, but the 7 levers on top of the slide are hopefully attracting you to listen what we see as our value to provide. And the basic principle here is that we want to engage with you in an active listening mode to understand which of the 7 levers that are all, let's say, influencing your growth strategy of the future, which are the ones where you need some individual support with our analyst and consulting community to really, really work on an individual basis and to help you to strengthen the sales pitch on the one hand, and for sure to develop the right growth strategy on the other hand. And based on these 7 levers and related challenges or questions that raise in every vendor company, we have developed the solution portfolio on the bottom of this slide to help you on every of these stages where help is needed. So this is the second pillar. And the third pillar is now also the outlook on our agenda and all the formats that we plan in our influencer business. So first of all, we have our supplier positioning tools, our vendor benchmark tools that we provide every year. On the one hand, the CXP radar, that is more bringing the lens on service companies and the business behind that. And the second, the BARC score, which is more, let's say, providing a lens on the platform and product businesses of enterprise application businesses. And right now, the schedule for 18 says that we will definitely do again the BARC score on ERP. So everything related to ERP and the BARC score on BI platforms. And from the radar side, we will also refresh our radar on the SAP services side of the business, especially focusing on consulting and system integration on the one hand, application management and hosting on the other hand, with the European focus, which is planned for third quarter of 2018. Second pillar in this influencer business is the multi-client studies, which is the basic principle here is we announce topics we want to publish, and then we ask for participants from the vendor community to make that trend study happen. And we are about to finish our schedule from BAS and EAS side of our world with this schedule. So you can see the different topics that we have in our planning right now, and I hope that some of them are appealing. And on the right side, we also differ a bit in terms of the geographical scope. I think you know that our key differentiator in the market is, on the one hand, being the #1 in Europe, but also being the #1 in some of the key markets within Europe, like France, like the DACH region, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and for example, the UK. But here, there is also a lens on some of the European topics that we want to drive, and some more local oriented multi-client studies for next year. Second slide, also again, a list of the topics we want to drive. You will get that presentation anyway, so no worries. You can consume that afterwards. A final word on this influencer business: the score and radar, and also the multi-client studies was more in a multi-client perspective, looking into different vendors and combining them. For sure, we always have the flexibility to work also on an individual basis, if you prefer that, to really spread the word about a certain technology or an innovation where you want to be perceived as a thought leader in the market. So this is always possible. And finally, there is not only your marketing channels that can be used with this content that we produce, or with this benchmarks that you can reuse. There is also our own channel where you always participate while engaging with us. And some of the stats and figures you can see here. I think in Europe we have a good presence in the different communication channels to provide the content we generate. So this is a basic outlook for you and also for your planning 2018. So don't hesitate to give us also your perspective of your individual interest based on these 3 layers. And I now hand over back to Sarah to open up the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank, Nikolai, and Stefan. So we now have some time to answer your questions. The first question for today that we have had is, when you say that we are moving to best of breed from one big suite, does it not conflict with the earlier trend shown for Switzerland and Germany?
I think I can take this. So first of all, we still have companies that want as much as they can get in one suite. So there's this aim from companies that they want everything in one suite. However, we see that even within vendors such as SAP, Oracle, they don't have just one suite. They have various products. So if you take, for example, SAP, they offer S4 as the suite. They have SuccessFactors for HCM, Ariba for the SRM processes, and companies will use these as in a best of breed fashion. In addition to that, they will use third-party solutions. So this is why we think that there's no conflict in that sense. And in addition to that, of course, it's also that not everything is core. It's also, you know, more innovative solutions. They may not all fit into one backend suite. Nico, I think you can provide maybe anything on top of that, right?
Yeah, just maybe a few words. Also, there is also, in terms of architecture, you have also what we call the hybrid approach, that you have, you know, a certain part of your application on-site, on-premises, and a certain part available in the cloud. And what is also the case that if you are in the cloud, the integration effort with sometimes the third parties is less important because it's more standardized for the cloud as compared if you do it on-site. One of the potential issue that you may will face, or what companies may will face, is actually if they're using different cloud providers. You need to do set up a multi-cloud strategy in order to make working, you know, those applications which are on the different clouds to work together. That is pretty, I mean, we have seen already that different cloud providers are now, you know, setting up the different interfaces to really ease this integration between the different clouds. And however, as just coming back to the, you know, to the initial question, whether it's a conflict or no, it's not really a conflict, you know, as Frank said, that there will be certain tools that you will just plug in into your application to enhance the functional scope.
Okay, thank you for your answers. There's another question about the application versus SaaS sizing, and whether you could give a bit more explanation around the market growth rate chart.
So there is what's inside where, right? So if we look at the applications, software products business, it's license and maintenance. So it's the existing maintenance market and new software license sales. And as you know, growth comes mostly from license sales, and then afterwards revenue comes from maintenance. So there is a large and existing, mostly matured market. On the SaaS as a service side, it's everything that you pay for as a customer. So that's the subscription of the SaaS solution, and everything is included there. So it's the cloud infrastructure, it's the platform, and it's the application, so the business logic itself. So this is what we compare here. So it's the entire services that are needed to provide a application from the cloud. On the services side, it's consulting and systems integration. So there's no hosting included here or anything like that. It's just the project-related services, advisory, consulting, and systems integration, which is the implementation. In the traditional application-related services business, again, we have the setup of the technology, the framework, and of course then topics around customization, creating custom reports, and the integration work. We do have a limited or another scope of services on the SaaS side. So we have, of course, much less services for the technical implementation because the framework is there. However, we see a lot and even a larger share of consulting here on the SaaS side, because you need more consulting, which is the right solution, because you typically don't have the same flexibility in terms of customization on the SaaS application. So it's more about which is the right solution, which is the right orchestration you need to provide enough features for the demand of the customer. And this also means consulting in to stick with a standard. We still do have a lot of customization around. However, this is a different type. It's more the writing of add-ons, the configuration of the application, and also the development and the integration of custom-specific applications also in the cloud. So I hope this provides a bit more understanding of how we look at these different product and services markets.
Thank you, Frank. I think we've got time for one last question. So what does this mean for topics such as ERP?
So we still need, as I said earlier, we still need ERP. So it's not going away. So people need integrated applications, core applications to run their business as efficiently as possible, and integrate this ERP with the new topics, if you will, so IoT and the digital workspace and so forth. However, what we don't need anymore is old-fashioned and flexible ERP. So we expect people to invest into the transformation of ERP. So of course, we expect SAP customers to invest into transforming from ECC and Business Suite to S4. We also expect people from, say, on-prem Oracle applications towards the various SaaS applications being provided by Oracle. So ERP is not going away. ERP services are not going away. However, as I said earlier when I showed this picture about the what does this mean for you as a service provider, the backend, the ERP is a component, one component, but it's not the only one.
All right, so a big thank you again for your attention. I wish you a very successful Q4 business with maximum success, and talk to you soon. Thanks for your attention. Bye-bye.
Thanks also from my side. Bye-bye.
Thank you also from my side.